So there is hope because Tormenta, surprisingly, runs very well. And for a 300-foot coaster from B&M, I expected so much worse. But it's relatively smooth. So either quality control on the side of B&M has really improved, and maybe it's smooth sailing going forward, or they were really scared of messing this up because doing a 300-foot dive machine already sounded kind of like a challenge, given the vehicle size and the size of the ride. And they were like really making sure that this thing was manufactured very precisely. Whatever they did, I am impressed.
It's funny that like in 2026 we have to wonder like if B&M is going to be better now, because we wouldn't be having this conversation like 10 years ago. But now we ask ourselves, like when they announced Tormenta, I was like, oh, is this going to be like really bad, or is it going to be tolerable?
But then surely it was never going to be like that for very long. I'm sure clients complained, you know?
I freaking hope so. If I was King's Dominion, I'd be pissed.
So with that, I do want to mention also that the new Ranchero de Tormenta looks really nice. It's like the redo of Spain, that section, and it looks really, really bright, almost kind of like a Fiesta Village kind of thing for, like Knott's Berry Farm style. It looks very clean. Even the construction walls or whatever they're building next to Tormenta look really nice. And then the bridge over the little water feature into the ride, I am overall very, very impressed. And yeah, next year, hopefully the area should be completely finished, because at this point we're already at the end of the season. But there's a lot of groundwork being done around the drop of flume number 2, which is where the Larson loop was. I don't exactly know what's going in over there, or they're just gonna... Do you know what's going on over there?
I'm guessing that they're just gonna make it like a nice like sitting area. I don't know why they were always so eager to put a ride there, because they put the Larson loop there, and I'm pretty sure there was a ride of some kind there before. But it's right in front of the drop for Flume 2. So really, it should be midway, like all the way up to the drop, so that you can see the drop and enjoy it. But yeah, speaking of which, Flume 2 was closed because of construction. But Flume 1, which was open for us, the original Flume, 1963, Aero Flume number 1. That's usually the one, like if one of them is going to be closed, it's usually that one. And the reason for that is because Flume 2 is newer, which opened in 1968, relatively newer. They're still both ancient. But Flume 2 is ADA compliant, and Flume 1 technically is not. So usually they'll run Flume 2, and then if they'll run Flume 1 if they need both flumes, or and in this case, like if Flume 2 is not operable for the season. So really excited that we got so lucky and that Flume 1 was open, especially considering how quiet it was in the park, because usually it's literally only on the busiest days. So we got it on a quiet day.
We love it. Any very good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Sean.
This is Alex.
And you're listening to another episode of Coaster Kings. And today's episode is all about Six Flags Over Texas, which I was excited to go back to, but cautiously excited. Because my last visit was 10 years ago. Alex's last visit was 9 years ago. And I wouldn't say I had like a terrible visit, because I was really still quite impressionable. And this was one of my first coaster trips I did. And, I was still young, went with some friends. So for me, it made as good of an impact as impression as anything could have made at that point. But at the same time, I could really sense its flaws back then. And so I was kind of cautiously excited, because I know they had done some work. Tormenta, of course, such a big deal, such a big step. And so I was excited to see what they were up to. And I will preface that I was really pleasantly surprised. And we had one heck of a good time. We had a really fun time.
Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, we came straight from Universal Kids Resort, which we also had a really nice time at. We're recording an episode about that too. It'll either have already come out or it comes out right after this one.
Yeah, so if it's not live yet, you'll be hearing it next.
Yeah. And if it is already live, go listen to it.
Yeah.
Listen to that one too. And give us 5 stars. And so we had a nice morning at Universal Kids Resort. The lack of crowds at Universal Kids Resort, which allowed us to stay for like 2 hours and do everything, was a trend that would continue. to Six Flags Over Texas because we got there, and it might be like it may have been like the lowest crowd day of their entire season because this is the last week that they were doing daily operations, but schools started this week. And they didn't start on Monday because didn't you say somebody like there were people there on Monday and the park was packed because it was like right before school?
Well, yeah. So we posted some stories, and then people were replying to the stories that, you know, wow, you're so lucky. We wish it was like that on Monday. It was so busy. So I have a suspicion, and I think this is a thing. I don't know anyone in high school really well, so but I have a suspicion there's this thing where like school started on like Wednesday, like teachers start Monday, Tuesday, and then school start Wednesday kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
Like the first week is kind of short, like it rings kind of a bell.
Yeah. Like a half week.
You may sound like noobs, but we don't have no kids.
Okay, so. We don't even have any kids in our lives, really, like that we would know this kind of thing or like have parents to ask.
So I think that's why it was so quiet because I saw some like Q data, QTimes.com. I forgot which website exactly this, but it was showing like a 5% attendance on Wednesday, and we went on Thursday. I mean, we walked on 4%. We walked on to every single ride. In fact, for Tormenta, we didn't even have to leave the station. Like they would literally just, even for front row, they would be like, all right, just stand over here for a second. If nobody else comes on to row one, you can just get back on. And so we did. And so, yeah, it was great. I mean, this is the best case scenario for riding Tormenta. We took photos on the way in because there's a great view from right below the ride. I mean, the ride's so marketable because you get into the park from the parking lot, you have to just walk right below it. Like, it's so impressive. And so it was great because we got the chance to kind of take some photos and stuff before we even came inside. And we went straight to Tormenta, which I guess we should just start the episode with talking about Tormenta.
Yeah, we went straight there. We parked right under the coaster and took pictures from the outside and like marveled at its magnificentness. Then we went in and immediately did the U-turn through the Mexico area of the park and then to Tormenta. And I just feel like the Mexico area and Spain, or what is now Rancho de Tormenta, is so nice.
Oh, Rancho de Tormenta.
Yeah. I think I spelled it wrong. Is it Ranchero or Rancho?
I don't know.
I think I screwed up the notes. I'm like, I think I spelled it wrong twice, 2 different ways in the notes. But then I Googled Rancho de Tormenta, and that's what came up. So I was like, okay, it's Rancho. It's written on the era.
Yeah, it's Rancho de Tormenta.
De la Tormenta. Okay.
Yeah, so sorry about that.
Yeah. Anyway, so walking through the Mexico area, I noticed how beautiful Sombrero is looking, which is their Chance Trabant ride themed to like a big Mexican sombrero. And I looked it up, and Sombrero got remodeled in 2023. And that was when it got its brand new paint job that looks absolutely stunning. And I just think that's so cool that that's still such a like a little focal point ride for the park because it dates back all the way to 1965. This park has had this Chance Trabant for over 60 years. It's just unbelievable to me. In fact, I realized on this visit, when I was there 10 years ago, I just couldn't appreciate this aspect of Six Flags Over Texas, but they've got like 10 attractions that predate 1970, which is just so cool to me. So we made a point of at least of mentioning on this episode, but we pretty much rode all of them too, with the exception of Sombrero and the Scrambler. We rode all of the vintage rides at the park on this visit. We rode everything, really. We had so much time.
Well, we didn't even have that much time because it was efficient and it really wasn't busy. There was no.
And we got lucky with some ride up times and down times because when we showed up, Tormenta was running, but like everything else looked really static.
Well, yeah, I mean, we definitely, the priorities were going to be Tormenta, Mr. Freeze Forwards, because I had never done that, and then of course Titan. And when we got there, Titan and Mr. Freeze were big close, like not cycling, not even testing for a while. But then Tormenta was open, and then New Texas Giant was open, and we saw them testing Titan after the theme game off the dyno, right? And then, but it wasn't actually open up till like towards the end of our day. And then Mr. Freeze, we'll talk about it later, popped in for like 30 minutes of operation. So we just got lucky and we still managed to hit everything. Like, absolutely no complaints. But yeah, let's focus on Tormenta a little bit more. So Tormenta and the surrounding Hacienda de Tormenta area looks great.
No, it's not Hacienda, it's Rancho, remember?
Oh.
Yeah. See, that's where
I thought you just misspelled Rancho several times.
No, I misspelled Rancho.
You're just coming up with
and I labeled it wrong in the notes too. I'm just fighting. But Hacienda sounds good.
I was like, maybe there's like two.
Yeah, there's like others.
maybe Rancho de la Tormenta is like the entrance to the ride.
Hacienda is inside. I don't know.
I was like, what
You're gonna have to bear with me here.
I'm blaming Alex for this. I was the one driving. He was the one making show notes this time.
I'm like making the notes, and I'm like, yeah, that's what it's called, right?
I should go back to show noting. Anyway, so everything around Tormenta looks great.
Yeah,
and I want to mention real quick that I thought that they did a really impressive job, because not that I have lower standards when it comes to Six Flags and I have lower expectations, but I can really sense that this is their big deal coaster that has come like once in a decade or more than a decade. And so you can really tell that they put in the effort. I love the presence of the big iron bull, and then the bridge over the water feature, and then the queue had this like wooden kind of like, ranchy aesthetic with the flags all over the place, and then they had a two-sided locker system installed. I just thought overall it was just really nice. I was impressed by that. It really feels almost like a Cedar Fair project, which of course at this point the companies is merged, but you can tell the effort went into this, and it's nice to see. It's really nice to see. It didn't feel cheap. It felt really appropriate for like what is really the big deal coaster. And maybe I was a little skeptical. Was on like, well, I mean, I don't hate dive coasters. I think people know that I love Yukon Striker, big fan. In fact, my favorite coaster Canada's Wonderland is Yukon Striker. And I've drawn those parallels as soon as they announced Tormenta. But you're still kind of thinking like, wow, the park, is this really what they need? A dive machine? Does the park need a dive machine? They barely have a standard looper that's not from like the 70s.
It's not open right now.
So I'm thinking to myself, is this really what they needed? But you know what? It's a great fit, because it does have that Giga edge to it, and the presence of it is so immense. And the airtime exists because there are some surprising pops and surprising moments of like hang time. So overall, I think it's a really varied ride that maybe that's exactly what they needed. They have the gimmick of the hanging part. They have some crazy airtime on that beyond vertical drop. They have a 309-foot drop we're talking about. We have inversions. So it really does combine a lot of elements into one. And so I'm sold.
Yeah.
I'm sold on the ride.
This ride's just so cool. It's got the tallest inversion, period. Like the tallest inversion on any coaster ever built. The Immelman, coming out of the Immelman, it just feels like free fall. Like, it just goes
like an inverted drop.
Ever.
Like you're just invertedly dropping. I couldn't believe it.
Tallest vertical loop. Probably, I'm guessing. I would be shocked.
I think that's what they announced, yeah.
I would be shocked if there was a vertical loop taller than this one. And it hauls ass, too. I mean, you are still going so fast through all this stuff, because these inversions are still like 40, 50 feet shorter than the drop height.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that despite its size, you blow through these inversions so fast that like I gray out on the Immelman.
Yeah.
And then when you come off the Immelman, like going down, like I said, it feels like an inverted drop. And that was for me the biggest surprise moment, especially if you're in the left wing of the coaster. It feels almost like you're just like floating inverted, like airtime going down, and then you're kind of being like whipped down right before the loop. I was like so impressed. I couldn't believe it. And I almost felt like I was just in suspense the whole time. And then that vertical loop is really powerful. Not necessarily gray out level, but I was kind of expecting maybe like a little bit of a floater or something, because it is such a big loop.
Yeah, no.
But no, that thing keeps you like
stuck in that seat,
plastered to your seat, that whole vertical loop. And then you have that reverse Immelman that then kind of hops into the brake run. And that too, because of its shaping, almost like a wind coaster kind of shaping to it. It really creates on both sides of the train like a fun pop of airtime. One kind of popping out of it, one kind of popping into the brake run. But that was a surprisingly good element too. Then the second half of the ride feels like almost like a Wrath of Rakshasa kind of dive coaster.
Yeah.
Really, one side feels like a new generation of dive coaster, like a souped up Giga Yukon Striker.
Like unfamiliar.
Yeah, like unfamiliar almost. Just like blasting through space and time at this crazy speed that really is unlike anything I've ever done. And then that second half just feels like, like Yukon Striker, like a decent sized drop, nice maneuverability to it, maybe a slightest shuffle because the elements are much smaller, but not like in a bad way, not like in a like hurtful way.
Yeah. All things considered, man, it runs great. The fact that it hauls ass so hard for the whole ride is a great testament to how well it runs, because there's very little drag, there's very little shuffling or anything that would reduce the momentum on the ride prematurely. It carries so much momentum into the mid-course, and then it's a long mid-course. It comes to a complete stop, and then it plays like
This little
The
like
cantina
it
music.
was like traditional music.
I'm like,
Yeah.
it should be like eating tapas by the ocean, listening to this.
Which is funny because on the top of the lift, so they play this chant where it's like Tormenta, Tormenta, and like Alex mistakenly we never
I
posted
was like,
this.
oh yeah, I cut it from the story, but I was like, oh, the people are chanting. The writers are chanting.
I was like, man, like people are really here for
like, wow,
Tormenta.
people are like really into this, and it's awkward audio.
It's awkward audio. But
I love it. How can you not love it?
Either way, it was
fun.
cool. And I do want to go back to the lockers for one quick second. I mentioned the lockers were great. They were the free lockers. Very familiar with, if you're familiar with the Top Throw 2 locker system, it's the same size, but it's double-sided. So you can just pick up your stuff on the back end. So it actually does fit like a decent sized, smaller bag in there if you can kind of squish it, which worked for us. And they installed these lockers, kind of like slot lockers, at several rides, including Titan and Aquaman, which are great because we, after our Magic Mountain stolen camera bag incident, are like locker, or we won't ride kind of thing. And this park is not locker heavy at all, surprisingly. Like for Freeze, there's no lockers. For Batman, there's no lockers. There's no lockers for
Texas Giant.
Yeah. Like it was kind of this thing where like we just kind of played like, oh, we'll ride on our own and pass the bag over afterwards kind of things. I was kind of disappointed by the lack of lockers. But the biggest disappointment is that they installed this really nice two-sided locker banks for Titan and for Aquaman. But then they're not working. Like, oh, you use the black bins on the platform. But then it's one of those things where they're all running multiple trains. We have no choice to leave our items unaccompanied. And for Aquaman, sorry, it took me a second. I think I called it one earlier. Aquaman, we actually, at one point, I was like, I'll just won't ride because they were using two trains and everyone was just leaving their bags around. And from the midway, you can just grab bags. Yeah. Because they uses it like
this like two-sided rack.
Where like it's stationed at midway.
By could just grab it.
So at one point, I was just like, I'm not going to ride because I'll hold the bag. So I asked the guy how I could leave the station, the ride operator, and I was like, I just can't ride leaving this bag just sitting here for people to grab. And he was actually really cool and he held on to it for us, but it's unusual. I'm pretty sure not supposed to do that. Everything is at your own risk or leave it a non-rider. So I was going to become the designated non-rider for that. But I ended up still getting the Aquaman credit because the guy, the ride operator was cool and actually like left the bag with him next to the booth, which was nice. But overall, that's one of the only real downsides to this, and I guess we're getting out of the way early. Yeah. Is that the locker situation that Secrets Over Texas needs improvement. I like where they're headed. I like how they're heading towards the custom two-sided slot locker system that, is free. Like they're moving in the right direction, but it's just one of the, kind of runs a little bit of Knott's Berry Farm doing the free locker thing, which is great, except for they need to actually implement it to make it work. Just all the locker banks that aren't working, all that defeats the whole purpose. So expand the lockers to every single ride, but please have them work. That's my biggest takeaway from that. But at least we're working on Tormenta, which is good.
That was the most important aspect. But yeah, so after we rode Tormenta 3 times in 3 different seats and had great rides all 3 times.
And I will say after 3, I was kind of done.
Yeah, it's intense.
Because of intensity.
Like, okay, after 3 rides, we're like, okay, cool. And then we saw that Log Flume 1 was running. I was so excited. So we went to Log Flume 1 and rode that.
Let's say that data number 1.
It's giving Roller Coaster Tycoon. It's like, I want to go ride Log Ride 1. But that is not like how they're regarded as like, the flume ride is called La Asadero, which means the sawmill. But there's 2 of them, and they're not really officially labeled. So, like, from the operational standpoint, you have Flume 1, which opened in 63, and Flume 2, which opened in 68. And like we said earlier, Flume 2 is down for the count, I'm guessing due to its proximity to the construction site where the Larson Loop that was next to the second Flume drop was located and is now a big pile of dirt. So Flume 1 was open for us, and I was so excited to finally ride the very first Log Flume, the OG Log Flume. It was really fun. They let us ride by ourselves. But back that's 10 years ago, like you couldn't ride the Log Flume if you were a solo rider. And I was at Six Flags by myself when I went in 2017. So a ride operator actually rode Flume 2 with me so that I could ride, which was very nice of him. But now they've dropped that rule. So Sean and I actually rode by ourselves so that we would not be as heavy in the boat and wouldn't get splashed as much. I love Flume 1. I mean, Flume 2 is cute too, but Flume 1 is the better Flume. I think most Six Flags Over Texas fans would agree. It's the OG. It's mostly sunken in the ground and like slithers through this very dense wooded area, and then has the great little scenic finale drop over the lagoon. It was just wonderful. I was just loving.
It's funny because
Every
I
second
kind
of
of
it.
wish that Flume 2 was open because I'm missing Flume 2.
Yeah,
And Flume 2 goes by Tormenta. So I was like, oh man, it could be kind of
that's
cool.
crazy that you've been twice and both times it was only Flume 1.
Yeah, to me, and I was there for 2 days last visit, and there was only Flume 1 both days. So in my head, I'm like thinking, oh, this is the Flume that runs kind of thing. But
Yeah.
I guess that was a unique situation. Yeah.
Yeah, as far as I know, Flume 2 definitely still runs more frequently, but it's probably getting up like a remodel.
Yeah, I mean, if we're wrong
was
about
looking
this, by the
nice.
way,
Yeah.
like, let us know on
Some of this
socials.
information is going on what we were told, 10 years ago. From locals and people who maybe don't go to the parks as often anymore or have moved. So yeah, if any of this sounds inaccurate, feel free to chime in on our socials for all of you wonderful Six Flags Over Texas home park goers.
Now, speaking of home, there's another attraction right next to it, themed to a home.
That was a really cute transition.
Yeah.
That was really good. So in addition to Flume 1, we also walked through Casa Magnetica. Do you want to talk about it? As you introduced it so beautifully.
So I was actually not sure what to expect. I was kind of scared that maybe it'd be like haunts. Because you walk into this first little house and there's like these doors there. I'm like, oh god, someone's gonna pop out at me. But because it seemed to deal with muertos a little bit, so I was like, oh, it's gonna be like a thing. But no, it was really cute. So it's kind of just like a walkthrough where you walk through a little hut, and then you have a little garden, and you go through some grottos, and a little garden, and you have the biggest showpiece, which is a crooked house you walk through. And there's some projection mapping, a lot of scenery and theming. It looked really cute. They did a really good job with it. I'm pretty sure a lot of stuff is new, kind of to tie in with Tormenta being open. But overall, it was really fun that they had it. And I'm glad we did it. It's not like a big time commitment. You walk through it in like 3 minutes. So
yeah,
it was fun.
It's just really special because, like I mentioned earlier, this is one of their original attractions. It was opened in 1962. So it was not an opening day attraction, but the very next year, Six Flags Over Texas operated. They added this attraction, and I was getting my entire roller coaster tycoon life walking through the Crooked House.
Right. So RCT.
And it's very special because like it has spent much of this decade closed. It spent much of this century closed because it closed in 1997 for the first time and has spent most of its years since 1997 closed. It would only open for like seasonal events like the park's 50th anniversary and then the 60th anniversary. But luckily, since the 60th anniversary in 2021, it's been open consistently. And I'm guessing they use it for Haunt, which it would like.
Well, it would be a very
obvious,
small maze if it was for Haunt.
Or
so
maybe just some sort of like a walkthrough. Like
no, but didn't you say they use
thing.
this for like the Halloween trick or treat thing for kids?
Yeah,
that would make
like
more
the
sense.
kids Halloween event, maybe.
Yeah, not for Friday Fest, I don't think.
But yeah, such a cool attraction. It's so classic. Like this is the kind of stuff like walking through the Mexico and Spain and Texas areas of Six Flags Over Texas and admiring like the little water features and all the architecture and these incredible vintage rides and attractions that are like over 60 years old. It just made me appreciate this park. I love this park so much more than I thought I did. It's so much more interesting than a lot of Six Flags parks. And Six Flags parks are great. Like they're inherently interesting for better or for worse, but there's just nothing quite like a park that dates back to the early 60s. There's really nothing like comparable to Six Flags Over Texas in my mind, except for like Disneyland.
No, it's true because you were talking about. I mean, back then the parks were kind of going head on head. It wasn't the marketing for Tickets Over Texas that was bigger than Disneyland.
Yeah,
I mean, that was
like,
literally its marketing thing.
Six Flags Over Texas was the original regional park to spin off of Disneyland, and Six Flags Over Texas introduced a lot of convention that even like to this day theme parks implement. Like Six Flags Over Texas was the very first park, I believe, to implement a pay one price model. That's not in the notes. That would have been a good did you know? But like that's a classic like Six Flags Over Texas claim to fame was that they charged one price. They never did ticket books or anything like Disney did. And they did the one price thing way before Disney implemented the one price and took away the ticket books. So that's like a great example of the way that the legacy of Six Flags Over Texas is still felt to this day. And then
speaking of a legacy, if you're ready to move on to Texas Giant,
yes,
because I think Texas Giant it really is like RMC's legacy. not necessarily like, of course, a sad incident that happened. Was it 2016 or was it 14 where the lady flew out and that became a whole thing? But Texas Giant, of course, being the first RMC and one of my early RMCs, because I wrote it right after Twisted Colossus opened. So for me, my knowledge was Twisted Colossus, Joker, and then this is my third one I think I wrote. So for me, this was really, back then, I was looking forward to it so much. And I always remember the restraints thing kind of struggling since they had to make the envelopes much tighter after the incident. And so when I wrote this time, that was unfortunately also a problem. Like I couldn't initially clear it, and they let me swap seats with with the guy next to me. And so then I managed to ride. That aside, I'm really glad I wrote it again because I enjoy it so much because it's so mild. It is so mild.
Yeah.
I mean, back when New Texas Giant opened, it was considered like the craziest thing that was ever done to a Woody. It was no longer a Woody. It was a hybrid coaster, Iron Horse. It was a sensation. I mean, it was a sensational attraction. And I really think the New Texas Giant was like, it really started a renaissance. We did a whole episode about coaster decades. And I think that New Texas Giant opening in 2010 appropriately really jump-started this renaissance of these RMC Iron Horse coasters, these conversions. So going back on it was important from a coaster nerd perspective, but also because I find RMCs kind of uncomfortable sometimes when they're doing the most. And so New Texas Giant doesn't really do the most anymore because it's the first one. So I enjoyed so much how smooth it was and how gentle it was and how it was really just like a really fun variation of a wooden coaster, more so than some crazy airtime, kill your shins kind of thing. I had a really good ride on it. I just didn't really want to deal with the no locker and potentially the walk of shame kind of thing again.
Sean and I rode separately. That's why when you said that you changed seats, we were like with the guy next to me. It actually wasn't me this time. It was
Pierre.
It was Pierre from Montreal. Did you tell him about the podcast? I hope you.
I don't think I told Pierre about the podcast. No.
Sean made a new friend in line, and I was like, "Oh, who's that?" He's like, "That's Pierre." I was like, "Okay,
of course it's Pierre."
Okay, Pierre. But yeah, it's funny going back to Texas Giant and seeing in retrospect. At the time, it was like so daring and so like just pure anarchy. And now looking at it, it feels very safe and very comfortable. It doesn't have any inversions. It's the only RMC Iron Horse coaster, I believe, that does not have inversions. Even though they totally could have done that, I think at the time it was already such a bizarre at the time thing for them to be doing to a ride that I think an inversion might not have gone over as well in the public sector. But that's actually one of the reasons why Six Flags Over Texas needed a looper so bad in Tormenta, was because unlike every other park in the world with their Iron Horse conversion, this park did not get a modern looping coaster out of their Iron Horse remodel. They got a little airtime machine, which is great. And it doesn't have those like kidney busting jackhammer airtime hills either. It was before the affinity for that.
Because it does do like a bunch of small hops towards the end, but they're not like painful. They're just kind of hops. And I was like, I remember being kind of like, oh wow, like there really is no airtime on this. And I will say that we rode empty trains even though it was so quiet, but it's still like, it was still Texas heat of 100 degrees. Like it wasn't, the trains, it was later in the day, like the thing had been running. So, but yeah, I really enjoyed it. I had a good ride on it. If we had more time, I would have maybe ridden again and hoped they would just table me in so I could, fit. But overall, it's really fun riding the original again. And I really think, personally, it's one of the better ones, even though it's the OG.
Yeah, I love it. Also, next to Texas Giant is another super, super old ride. The Dinosaurs Off-Road Adventure, which is the current iteration of the park's antique aerodynamics car ride from 1962. The park opened with the Happy Motoring Freeway in 1961, which is an early era aerodynamics car ride, one of the very first ones to use the center guardrail system that would later be implemented by Disneyland. It was actually first installed at the Autorama in 1959 or 1960-ish, thereout, at the Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk. That was the original aero car ride to use the center guide rail, which of course is the standard type of ride system for an antique car ride. Texas, of course, was a huge hit, and they only had one track. So in 1962, they added two more. They added a second track to the Happy Motoring Freeway, and they added a different themed version of the ride an antique car version of the ride in the Texas area, and that is the one that is still operating today. The dinosaur reskin is cute. It's like, it doesn't make any sense. Just like how Pirates of Spelunker Cave doesn't really make any sense. We'll talk more about that later. But it doesn't matter because it's just nice to see these rides get invested. And like the dinosaurs, I don't know. It's like it's funny. It's entertaining. It's cute. It probably sold some tickets. Everybody loves dinosaurs. Why not? So I loved it. I loved that I just love that it's open. I love that this thing is so old and it's still running. And like it just, got some investment in it. So like I don't even care if it's dinosaurs. It could be anything.
No, I thought it was cute.
Just be happy that it's running.
It's kind of like a dinosaurs alive thing, but this time you just kind of like sit in a vehicle and do it.
Yeah.
I thought it was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little random, but the back loop doesn't have a whole lot going on, so it doesn't feel like it's like theming clashes or anything. Just like from there on, if the walkway was open where the little shop is, realistically, you would have a pretty long walk until you get to Shockwave and Oil Derrick, and those like your next two attractions.
Yeah.
So the fact that these dinosaurs and this car ride sitting at Midway, I didn't mind dinosaurs being visible from Midway because there really isn't anything else going on.
There's not really much going on back there. Speaking of which, we need to talk about Six Flags Over Texas' layout, because as much as we love this park and there's so many great qualities, navigating this park is ridiculous. I have never felt so betrayed by my own sense of direction as I have on this most recent visit. I mean, I remember feeling that way in 2017, but this time I was prepared and thought like, oh, I'll know my way around this place a lot better this time, and I really didn't. And part of that is because of just the construction projects that they're actively working on. The walkway that connects like the Midway that the log flumes and Casa Magnetica sit on, and the entrance to Texas Giant and the Dinosaur Off-Road Adventure is blocked right now. It's being repaved. So these rides are all supposed to be like right next to each other, but they're not. Now to get to Texas Giant, you have to walk down to Titan and then do a U-turn and walk back.
Yeah. And
it is a perfect dead end. You're like, there's nothing over there. And like, we went to the gift shop to buy some water and they sold out of water, probably because once you're back there, it's like 3 miles to the next nearest gift shop or whatever. This park just has like the symptoms of a very, very, very old park, which like for everything that is great about how old the park is and how vintage it is, there's a little bit of headache that comes with it. I wish that like directional signs, I think like good signage would make things a lot easier. It just feels like there's pathways that seem like they're going to lead to something and then they don't. Attractions that are right next to each other aren't actually connected, and like not just because of temporary construction projects, but are just like literally not accessible to each other. So I hope that in the future going forward, I mean, maybe this is only a problem for like tourists and locals don't notice or don't care or just are familiar with it. And I'm sure if we went to this park more often, we would get used to it. It'd be second nature. But man, like I can't think of another park that has a more disorienting layout than this one. And I feel like there's relatively easy things that they could be doing to make the park feel a little bit easier to navigate. But I digress. Next, we rode Pirates of Spelunker Cave, which
last time
vintage.
Yeah, last time I rode it was still the Yosemite Sam's Off-Road Adventure, whatever.
It was, what was it? The gold? Let me Google it real quick.
But this time,
Yosemite Sam's Hacienda.
Yeah, so it's like, right. This time it was sorry, Yosemite Sam's Ranchero. Yeah,
Ranchero. I don't think is even a word. I think I made that.
I know, which I was so confused. So I was like, whatever the show.
Like, what is a ranchero?
Whatever the show notes say. Anyway, right. So Pirates of Spelunker Cave. First of all, I forgot how long it is. Second of all, it pays homage to the original Spelunker Cave or the Cave dark ride from when it was opened, and so you spend a good half of the ride, maybe 3/4 or like 2/3 of it, kind of going through this like Pirates of the Caribbean kind of vibe. Just like a little from on a budget, like Pirates of the Caribbean at home kind of thing. But then you have that super straight little lift hill and then like slope into like a slope turn into the water midway through the ride. And then that's when you enter Spelunker Cave itself. And that's when these characters come up that I am convinced are from like opening year characters.
They're like little aliens.
Yeah, they're like little aliens. And then there's like still quite a dark ride with them in it. So I think that the story is that, your treacherous Caribbean seas until you find the cave, and then once you find the cave, inside the cave live the speedlunkers. I thought it was really cute. It was better than I expected. They put a lot of effort into it, a lot of money into it, and it's honestly a decent dark ride for like a Six Flags park these days. I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, it was really cool. I loved it's just like 1964, man, like ancient little aero ride. Like this ride is the same age as the original It's a Small World at Disneyland. That's how old this ride is. And like, so not only is it really old, but this is a ride occupying somewhere very important in like ride technology timelines, like an old mill, basically the type of water flume ride that predates the water pump systems that we take for granted today on a ride like Pirates of the Caribbean or even a River Rapids ride. This ride works basically the same way that an old lock flume does, where you go up a little lift hill. The water flume is just a gently sloped flume pretty much through the whole ride. Monster Mansion at Six Flags Over Georgia is kind of in the same way, where it's got a little lift hill in the middle to compensate for the gradual changing in elevation that helps propel the ride. Although this one has a little drop in it, which is cool, and it's in total darkness, and you're kind of wondering like what is happening. But yeah, it's such a great ride. I wish Six Flags St. Louis used to have one of these, and it was demolished and replaced by Battle for Metropolis. And I wish we could go back in time and save it, because it's such a neat old ride system. And I'm glad that Six Flags Over Texas and Six Flags Over Georgia still have theirs, and they seem both so well loved and so well maintained. The Georgia one is really like the pride of that whole operation. Like their social media, I swear, like half of their Instagram page is just Monster Mansion, which is great. I love that energy. I think that's the kind of stuff that makes these parks still so special after all these years, even after, some of the difficult choices and some of the areas with inadequate budget and things for keeping things up. It's like, at least we have some of these really cool old rides.
Speaking of cool old rides, the next ride that we did was the Runaway Mine Train, 1966, argued to be the first tubular steel coaster, but Matterhorn truly, I think, was the original. But Runaway Mine Train is right next to Mini Mine Train, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But Runaway Mine Train, I forgot how good it is. First of all, it walked so that every other coaster could run, right?
Literally.
But it was also objectively, like, I kind of said, like, they peaked early. And I remember liking it a lot last time, but I really like it. It is long, it's varied, does lots of little things, great theming, great landscaping, great use of terrain, does that like thematic lift hill drop into the lake kind of thing.
With the scene,
at the saloon, and then you drop through the lake into the underwater tunnel, and then you come out on the backside. Like, it's also just a really scenic ride. Mad underrated. And I know people talk about this ride isn't like kind of its historical status, but I think genuinely
it's just a great ride.
It is one of my favorite mine trains in the world.
Yeah. And the Mini Mine Train is no slouch. It's just so cool that they have, again, these two more rides that predate 1970. It was amazing riding the Mini Mine Train, especially this time around, because we just rode the other Mini Mine Train, the other operating Mini Mine Train at La Ronde a couple weeks ago. And like, we had never ridden the one at La Ronde. That was a new credit for us. And this one was a first in 10 years sort of thing. So it was like, I felt like we could just really appreciate this and the full-size mine train a lot more. But the OG mine train, the Runaway Mine Train, again, gives me like this almost Knott's Berry Farm feel. Like, it's the kind of ride that was just defining the era of like the themed ride renaissance, a roller coaster with a dark ride scene and practical effects that predates rides like the Haunted Mansion and Pirates of the Caribbean, and like well predates even like Big Thunder Mountain. Is right here at Six Flags, and it's so great. It is still such a delightful ride. After we rode the mine trains, then it was time to get a credit. We weren't like in a huge hurry to ride Aquaman because we knew we'd get wet, and we had other priorities really. But it was open and running, and there was no line because nothing had lines, so it was time for Aquaman.
Yeah, Aquaman. So first of all, I've ridden Pulsar already. Alex has not ridden Pulsar, and then neither of us have ridden on a Shenzhen because it just hasn't worked out like that for us.
It opened like a couple weeks after we.
Yeah, like we saw testing, but we never got to ride it. So anyway, I was kind of cautious because I just don't like getting wet. And these things are like super soakers. So everyone's like, okay, if you ride in the back and then ride in the middle, you'll be okay. So we actually got assigned the back row. So I rode in the middle, but I still got wet, but it wasn't too bad. Like, I'll be honest, it wasn't too bad. I'll post a video of it. You can see the water coming like into the, into the boat because I filmed it.
The glasses got soaked.
Yeah, but overall, I do enjoy it a lot. I mean, there's airtime, there's vertical drops.
It's thrilling.
There's like launches. I mean, it's a really cool ride, and I am really glad they built it. And when they first built Pulsar, and I went to Six Flags Texas shortly after, I still remember thinking, and it's almost uncanny because they used to have an Aquaman like shoot there. And I remember thinking, man, there's such a big plot over here. They should put like a super splash in there. So when they announced a year later, I was like, man, that's the best fit.
Predicted that.
I thought of that. Like I armchair imagineered that in the early stages of that of Costa Kings.
Armchair manifesting.
Yeah,
Weird.
right. So I'm glad we wrote it. I do find it a bit of a weird installation because the way it sits in the midway, and they build this pool for it, and then these splash walls, and then they build like these fences around it. Like, it definitely feels like the most Six Flags like possible thing they could have done. But you know what? For something replacing a shoot and sitting where it sits, it could have been a lot worse. If they put in more money into like thematic or like, aesthetic choices, then that would have been great. But I don't hate the ride. I actually liked it better than I expected.
I just thought the ride, so from my first impressions of finally getting to ride one of these, I just thought it was so cool. The airtime, the punchiness of the launches, the views, like going the vertical, like all of it was like, what a fun, cool ride. Like, and a neat ride for Six Flags Over Texas, because something about Six Flags Over Texas, it's like from day one, it has just been winding up with these unique, cool rides. Things like the OG RMC, the OG Mine Train, the original log flume. Now it has this Power Splash. It's not the original, but it's still the only one in the United States. And I mean, these rides have been around for a while. I don't know if we'll see one in the United States now. Like, but I mean, I guess I'd never say never, but like, who knows? At the next park that gets one, it'll be a surprise. And I don't know if one's coming anytime soon. So as it stands, it's a very unique attraction for Six Flags Over Texas. It has a great presence, I think, being right in the middle of the park. It's a fun ride to watch. It looks pretty good. Yeah, some of the like embellishments around it could use a little work, but it's a miracle that it fit into that plot. I mean, it is close. It is tight on every perimeter between the midway, the train ride, Pandemonium, the walkway leading to Bugs Bunny Boomtown. I mean, it is snug in there.
Yeah, I mean, it's impressive that it fit. Yeah, especially because you don't think about it much, but those rides need a lot of land because they are almost like Air Force One, not fitting in like any park because it does too much stuff in line. And so the fact that they managed to fit in the center of the park is really cute. And then when you kind of see the park from afar and see the two little Aquaman towers sticking out of the park, overall, I'm impressed, and I don't think it's a bad fit at all.
I think it's a nice spiritual successor to the Texas Cliffhanger, the park's Intamin Freefall that used to be on the far end where the back spike of the ride is, right where Pandemonium is now. Always felt like there should be a modest little 100-foot drop tower there. And now there is, except it's attached to a roller coaster and you get soaked. I just love it.
And so next up, we actually learned that Titan reopened, so we're going to go there. But because there's no clean, easy way anywhere, we decided to convolute a way through Old France and ride Runaway Mountain. Now, Runaway Mountain, I remember loving on my first visit. And so I was excited to ride it again. Now, I had just forgotten that the trains were just so weird that you have to kind of, as a tall person, you have to kind of cross your legs, fold them backwards, and then close your strain on them and hope that you don't beat the hell out of your legs. And unfortunately, I did beat my legs quite a bit against the restraint. And I don't know if it was supposed to be covered by rubber, but at the bottom of the restraint, there's like screws and stuff. And so because my legs were like banging against them, I almost was like bleeding. They scuffed me up quite a bit. So my overall experience wasn't great. I appreciate the layout, and in the dark, it's quite thrilling, even though it's just like like a windstorm layout.
Yeah, it's an SDC windstorm in the dark.
Yeah, well, made by Premier Rides.
Right, yeah. One of their very first projects.
But there's some cool elements, like that non-inverting kind of loop moment where like, like it's really sharp drops and stuff. I think layout-wise is really cool. I guess personally wasn't very comfortable, so for me it wasn't the best thing. But
I'm glad we wrote it. Man, it's smooth as glass. It is running so well. It's 30 years old this year. Classic Time Warner era. addition with like this eagerness to tell a story, even with like a basic ride. The setting around the ride is really gorgeous when you're walking in the outdoor queue and all those incredibly tall trees making a fabulous little canopy over the walkways and stuff. It's a very neat ride that's very nestled. For a ride that's like in the middle of the park, it is kind of funny how difficult it is to access. Like it's definitely a ride you wander over to. You don't really like go to it directly, like Sean said. But yeah, a neat ride for sure, and an interesting like one, and yet another like oddball one-off for Six Flags Over Texas, with like this being Premier Ride's only ride of this style. Opening the same year as like the Spaghetti Bowl coasters for Kings Island and Kings Dominion, the Flight of Fear coasters. This ride obviously didn't have nearly as much fanfare, but it is, along with those two Spaghetti Bowls, like the OG Premier Rides attractions. But so from there we went on to Titan, and we had a great front row ride on Titan. They were running 2 trains. A lot of the coasters were running 2 trains, which was amazing considering how quiet the park was. It made our loose article situation a little more difficult, because if it's a 1 train operation, we can just leave our bag on the side. But with so many rides running 2 trains, we had to get a bit more creative and with lockers and riding in shifts and stuff. But yeah, man, Titan was amazing. Not the biggest fan of the new color scheme, but it's just nice that it's been repainted at all.
So I can't really tell if the new color scheme was one of those things like Flight Deck at California's Great America, where because it's right next to the 49ers stadium. They gave it like 49ers colors, because this is like very similar to the Dallas Cowboys, like having the blue and silver thing going on, except for the supports are in silver. Yeah. Which I found a little bit weird, but maybe white was just cheaper. I just don't get it. I don't know why it wasn't necessary. I know the other color scheme was harder to maintain. Like this thing is gonna fade so nicely because this is gonna be light blue and white. Like they invested into like a long-term paint scheme that's not gonna look terrible. Because I will say there's so many supports on these. These things are practically wooden coasters. There's so many supports. So
paint this thing.
Painting is like expensive, and when it fades, now it's just gonna fade to white. There's not much work that needs to be done in the future, but I just don't like it. It's like it doesn't even really feel classical to me. It just kind of feels easily stained. Yeah. And Titan had a kind of an iconic color scheme, and even the logo has that like rocky, the Titan logo hasn't changed. Like if they had changed the logo to just silver or blue letters, it would have been one thing, but the logo is still the like Rocky Goliath logo. So to me, it just looks like, I don't know, it doesn't really fit the vibe. It doesn't feel like it fits that ranch vibe that they have going on for that ride as well. I don't know. I feel kind of weird about it, but there's no denying the ride itself is spectacular. The upward helix is so cool and so intense. I grayed out. And I also think that it's really nice that they still managed to have 3 different colored trains. Because Goliath at Magic Mountain, which is of course the predecessor, has always had the same colored trains for all 3 trains. But then Titan has always had 3 different colored trains. And so they had I think it was an orange, a red, and a yellow train. And so now they have a red, a white, and a blue train. And so every aspect of the train is it's a combination of those 3 colors, but the primary color of the main chassis, or the main vehicle, is different for all 3. And so they rotate those colors. And that it sounds kind of dumb, but that kind of dedication to doing different colored vehicles, I think it's really cool.
I agree.
It's really neat. You can't just change out parts because they're different colors. And so that's kind of nice. Like I have a couple of photos of a white train running on Titan and a red train. And in that regard, it does look clean. I guess just the overall color scheme had, assuming they're going for like an Americana look, I wish that there was some red. In fact, I almost wish that there was just red support columns and white support columns kind of like spaced out evenly. Yeah. So also like kind of do an American flag thing. I think it would have been really kind of cool and sensational, but unfortunately not. But it is what it is.
But yeah, man, what a great ride. And as people who have like really grown to love Goliath at Magic Mountain over the years, my appreciation for this ride has grown immensely. As we were like barreling into the upward helix, all I could think about was Bandit at Yomiuri Land, which does that exact same thing, except Titan is way more comfortable. So it's like such a cool thing to see, like such a niche moment on a roller coaster, see it like replicated and brought to life on a new ride, on a different ride. And like we'll always be like Giovanola fans to death. Like What other manufacturer like just knocked it out of the park perfectly 100% of the time? The answer is a manufacturer that lasted longer and built more than 3 coasters, but we digress. I mean, what a fabulous, albeit short track record for Gia Manoa. So at this point, we had definitely hit all of our main priorities, except that we needed to go back across the park to get Sean his Joker credit.
So on the way to Joker, we actually did stop by Judge Roy Scream, which is still the funniest thing, how back when that park had way more space, they really thought that they needed to build that Woody on the other side of the park's entrance road. So they built this tunnel, and then they built Judge Roy Scream. They built it just by the lake, and then on side of the road. It's very marketable.
So
you can tell it was built as like a marketable thing. And now I just enjoy it because you walk up to Judge Roy Scream, and it's so serene. You walk through this tunnel, and then it goes on this grassy little hill by the water, and you walk you up to the station, and it's kind of fun how like completely quiet and chill that is. So different than like kind of the kind of clashy stickers over Texas thing you used to, where stuff is really built on top of each other and doesn't make a lot of sense. And there's like a Serenity on the other side of the road that's Judge Roy Scream, but that Serenity ends after you crest the lift hill, because I just did not think it was running that well. It wasn't terrible. I still could appreciate the layout that way, because it's first of all, it's the only wooden coaster in the park. And second of all, it's kind of a cute size. It's kind of classic. It's a fun ride. I just did not think it was tracking that well. I was kind of like holding on for dear life, trying not to smash my knees into the train.
Yeah.
But I didn't hate it. I just did not feel like I needed to ride that again. I think they offered us to ride again, but we didn't.
Yeah. It's a likable ride. Again, it was running 2 trains. There was nobody over there, so like we could have ridden again. But for a ride that doesn't do a whole lot, it certainly is rough. So I'm hoping that it gets some track work. It could be a great ride. It wouldn't be difficult or expensive to turn Judge Roy Scream into like an immaculate roller coaster. So I hope that's on the agenda for them, because I just don't think it would take very much. It would be a reasonable investment and like would go over very well for the public if they did that. And then then Sean got his Joker credit. I wrote it opening year, and I opted not to write it again because, I don't know, those rides don't really do anything for me. I tried to get a video of Sean riding. Our video didn't really come out that well because you were like facing the other way.
Yeah.
But it's okay.
So Joker, it's an SNS free spin. Not my favorite things in the world. This one is not that intense. I think I got like 2 flips towards the end of the ride on the side I was on. Yeah. My biggest takeaway is that I will say that this could have been a flat ride, but they decided to fit a coaster in here, and it fitted so nicely in the most impossible little corner at the back of the park. And so when you're riding it, I was facing the freeway on the lift hill, and I was like staring into people's cars, and I really realized that they optimized every inch of space to manage to fit in this coaster, which is nice because, again, it could have just been a flat ride or nothing. But also when you drive over to the park, you can just see the people walking through the queue and like into the station as you drive by. It really is incredibly snug the way they fit it. But actually, it made me appreciate it more. And from all the queues that these Joker free spins have, they were all very similar. This one also has a big tent, and then you have the queue that makes its way to the back where you split up to the 2 stations. And all of it looks pretty nice. I really can't complain. It's a free spin, so not much to talk about, but overall, a decent installation. No complaints.
It was at this point we realized that Mr. Freeze was finally open with people after being closed all day. So we ran over to Mr. Freeze and got our Mr. Freeze ride going forward. It was the only side that was running. The backwards side was not running. The train was not on the track.
Which I wasn't mad about.
Yeah, that's what we wanted. That's what we needed.
Because I had only ever done the backwards one. So my very first time on Mr. Freeze was in over Texas after they made it reverse blast, and I will say I had a blast. We rode it a bunch on that trip. Really good time. And then I've done the one in St. Louis a couple of times, and we just did the St. Louis one 3 months ago at this point.
Yeah.
So definitely make sure you guys listen to the Enchanted Sicker St. Louis episode, one of our best performing episodes this season, and that is actually released I think like 3 or 4 weeks ago when you're listening to this. So it won't be too much of a scroll down in the episode list, but definitely listen to that. But we rode it backwards there. And it was running really fast in St. Louis.
And consistently.
And to the point where people were telling us on our videos that it was running in like sort of turbo mode. And I was like, well, You're like, wow, you must have gotten a unique launch. And I was like, well, I don't think I got a unique launch. Every single time we rode it, it was like that.
Yeah.
It was like really, really fast going through that top hat. Now the Over Texas one, we rode forwards, and it didn't do, the speed wasn't as crazy, which at the same time, it kind of, the spike itself in that case was more fun because it needed the LAMs more, kind of launch up a little bit and then launch back down. I feel like I could really tell when it like the boost was assisted going up and going down when we were going forward. And the color scheme, I also want to say, looks really good with the 2 blue tones because they gave the new colors. And they redid the queue, which also looks really good. They put a lot of money into this to make it like choose your fate kind of thing,
It's
forwards,
looking
backwards.
awesome. Yeah.
Lots of theming,
Little ice cream cones,
show elements in the queue, and then the new color scheme. I will say it's in great shape. It's already been like a local legend for the park for so long, and it really feels like that too. It feels like they care about this ride. They just have a hard time running it.
Yeah. I'm so grateful that we got the ride that we got because like it was done for the rest of the day after we rode. I mean, I think it did open for like
The last 10
minutes after, but man, it had like an accumulative uptime of like 45 minutes for the entire operating day. We couldn't have been more than one of maybe 10 trains that dispatched with people. So really lucky and had a really fun ride on it. And I hope to ride it again someday. But with the way that thing operates, nothing is guaranteed. With that, we only had 2 operating coasters left that we hadn't ridden. So we decided to just complete the park. So we hit Batman. Batman was fine. It was running 2 trains, but there was nobody over there. So the trains were going out pretty much empty, except for the front row. And it rattled and shuffled and was still really fast and like made your feet tingle, but it just didn't run as well as it probably could have. And then with 10 minutes left in the operating day, we ran over to Pandemonium and ended up getting 2 rides on that because the ride ops offered to let us ride a second time without leaving our seats. And that wasn't one that I would have prioritized, but it was fun to ride every coaster in the park and, you know, experience every coaster as it is in 2026 these days. So.
I mean, where we were in the park with 10 minutes left in the operating day, the only thing that made sense to go ride at that point was Pandemonium. And we had a great ride on it. We saw it earlier. We saw it spin like crazy. So we rode, our friend Dustin, we met up with, we rode with him and we were spinning kind of crazy.
Great rides.
We got great rides both times. It was kind of fun. Yeah. It was nice. And just to piggyback on the Batman thing real quick, like Alex said, it wasn't running that well. But one of my most crazy criticisms about this Batman when I first rode it, being someone had done the Magic Mountain one only. Back when I rode, I think I only had done the Magic Mountain one back then.
Yeah.
Anyway, so when I rode it for the first time, I remember being really underwhelmed by the theming and being kind of upset that like the theming was so meager compared to what Batman used to have. The Magic Mountain one had. Now, I do actually think it's not as bad as I said. Now that I've been on St. Louis's. Because there's foliage, there's a couple of buildings you go in and out of. It's not spectacular. It's themed to like Wayne Industries. It's not themed to the usual Batcave. So it's kind of like Mr. Freeze, kind of missing in a factory.
Yeah.
It's like the factory corner of the park.
You're not like on the other side of the tracks anymore like you are at the original 4 or 5 Batman coasters. This was the first one to kind of sanitize the whole experience, and you're not like under a freeway overpass or anything anymore. This time you're, like you said, in the Wayne Industries, like well advertised office building. Their whole Gotham City area is pretty cool. Like the part that was installed for Mr. Freeze and for Batman in 97 and 99 respectively, that Time Warner era. It's really nice.
No, it is nice. And I have the little Batwing ride and I have these little tunnels and the games. And overall, it's actually one of the better remaining little areas that is kind of like Batman-y, you know? So I was actually really pleasantly surprised. And of course, they repainted both Batman and Mr. Freeze. They restored a lot of the effects for both. So even Batman, like the queue was looking really good. The lighting, the videos, the audio, and then the station. It's no Batcave, but overall, both these rides were in really good shape. And it's just nice to see. I guess that we don't need to talk about Pandemonium much more, so I could jump into this point. Is that overall, it was really nice to see that you can sense that, and since our last visits 9 or 10 years ago, they put so much money and effort into this park to make it nice, to paint everything. All the little shops look really good. The queues were in good shape, especially the Batman and Mr. Freeze queues. And then I thought Mine Train was in great shape. I just thought overall the park was in such good shape. I was like, wow. Because my association with Overtex was always like rundown, original, not that great of a lineup, and kind of whatever. But whatever they did in recent years to just put money into it and make it look better, did a great job. I had a really pleasant time, and it's that my whole mindset around Overtex has completely changed.
I feel like I have fallen in love with this park.
Yeah, I'm like, damn.
I used to like appreciate it. Now I am like passionate about it. Tormenta was the thing that really tipped the scales. Having a brand new, just dynamite, record-breaking, signature, one-of-a-kind coaster experience has put this place over the edge, and all of the upkeep that the park has been doing to keep the rest of the park feeling pretty nice is like really rising to the occasion.
Because it really is all really nice right now. Like everything is just looking really good. Everything is looking classic and quaint, but just like in a good way. And it was just really clean and much cleaner than the last time. All the rides have been repainted. I mean, like I said, Mr. Freeze, Batman, Shockwave hasn't been repainted, but maybe it'll get it.
Oh, yeah. Shockwave, Oil Derrick, and the go-karts. That little corner of the park is not operational for 2026.
But it's okay.
Hopefully they'll all be back online next year. I would love to see Shockwave get new trains. It's probably going to, like, I would assume that a train remodel akin to Mindbender at Six Flags Over Georgia and the Revolution at Magic Mountain is inevitable. And if they do that, that's great. We love those trains.
It's kind of like the last corner that needs help anyway. So hopefully that's kind of what they're working on. And we're just kind of working towards refurbishing Shockwave, repainting it and giving it new trains and kind of giving that whole little plaza some love. Because everything else looked fine to me. I don't think there's much in the park that needs any more updating.
Yeah. Well, they could just do some more directional signs, and maybe if there's a midway or two that could be optimized somehow. I don't know. There's got to be a way to make it so that it's not so easy to get lost in this park. But
in a way, isn't it just part of the adventure?
And the lockers. Yeah, I guess it is. I guess it's the beauty of Six Flags Over Texas is about not being in a hurry and like just wandering into the areas of the parks.
Because while the layout is a little bit confusing, and if you stumble around a corner, you're going to find something that's operational and that's open, and something for like variety, like you may have the dark ride, you may have the indoor roller coaster, or there's like a, like there's just a giant Giga, like a hyper coaster hiding in.
Or like a wooden coaster under a bridge, like across the street and over the hill. Like.
Yeah, or like you cross, you pass a little tunnel and like past a scrambler, you find yourself a hyper coaster you didn't know existed.
Yeah. It's
stuff
crazy. Like
that is really over Texas. So in a way, I kind of appreciate how much of a mess it is. As long as they keep it nice like it is right now, over Texas got a bright future.
100%.
And with Tormenta, I really look forward to our next visit. May it be even this year.
Yeah,
we've already kind
swing
of
back there in the fall.
Going back this year.
So we need to do Texas again. We need to do Austin and San Antonio, and Dallas is a pretty easy point of entry for us. So we might just. Like the only reason we went to Six Flags Over Texas and Universal Kids Resort is because we were in Oklahoma City for a wedding, and Dallas was like the obvious way for us to get in and out of here.
Speaking of which, that's why we're recording this in Oklahoma City in a hotel room on one laptop with no equipment. So if it sounds weird, should have probably prefaced that at the beginning.
If it sounds weird, it's because we're going to Frontier City tomorrow.
That's why. And one final thought I want to add about Tormenta that I didn't explain earlier is that the color scheme I had mad appreciation for, because it's kind of classic. It definitely fits in with the Spain theme, but it's also just like kind of really distinct. It's clean. It's kind of naturalistic. Why haven't we seen this color scheme ever before? I have no idea, but I'm so glad it's here.
Yeah.
It reminds me of one of those cars from the 70s that's like the wooden paneling on the side.
Yeah.
But then it just works for this ride.
Yeah.
And then the trains having that like
gorgeous earth tones.
Having that completely white train with the red for the restraints and the seats. Like the seat molds, it's just really clean. It is such a good job with this. I can't believe it. I guess we'll have to like start and end this episode with Tormenta.
Of course.
I would give Tormenta 5 stars.
Oh, 100%.
And what you should do, you should give us 5 stars on Spotify or podcast or wherever you're listening that allows for ratings. So we really appreciate it. And then I will see you next week on another Coaster Kings episode.
Bye.
Bye.